And I would like to introduce the person who's going to invite Dr. Abuelaish to the stage, and that is our good friend and P4P member, Debi Parush. Debi has joined our group a year ago, and she has transformed it in a special way. She has brought the Israeli perspective to Potlucks for Peace, something that those of us who are Jewish in the community, but not having lived in Israel, we cannot represent that particular way of thinking, that experience. So Debi has been invaluable to us, and we've learned a great deal from her, and she is personally responsible for bringing Dr. Abuelaish here. So please give her a round of applause. She's
I think Dr. Abuelaish is personally responsible for him being here, but I'm really glad he agreed. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. Let me confide in you that I stand here with fears that transcend stage fright. Will you accept me as a lover of Israel? Will you accept me as a person who reminds us to listen to Arab stories when we think of our own? So when I say thank you, I realize that coming together is not the same as when people seek out to listen to their own opinions. It involves the risk of facing points of view that threaten our own, and that is scary, at least for me right now. As an Israeli member in Potlucks for Peace, I was asked by the group to introduce Dr. Abuelaish. In every action this group takes, it seeks a balanced representation, trying to balance with such a peace-building, life-loving Muslim Arab as Dr. Abuelaish is a great honor. In a way, it feels like my whole life has been leading up to this moment. Here's why. I was born in Canada to a Jewish family who escaped from Russian and Polish pogroms. Living a Jewish life was always a priority to my family. To us, the rebirth of the State of Israel was nothing short of a miracle the Jewish people were waiting for the last 2,000 years. I wanted to be a part of this Jewish creative miracle. It included utopian experiments like kibbutzim and the renewal of the Hebrew language. Life was hard in Israel. Noisy, lots of tensions among people from all over the world, including Orthodox and secular, Europeans and Africans, Arabs and Jews. There were guarded gates at the entrance to every public space, including nursery schools and universities, shopping malls and health clinics. Each time the guard inspected my purse, to overcome the feeling of intrusion, I joked with myself, imagining what embarrassing things might pop out in his face. During the Intifada, my 5-year-old son was late coming home from a friend's house. I remember looking for him under piles of leaves. My first most obvious thought was that he was murdered. I remember visiting in Metula, sitting in my car under a shower of rockets, listening for news of what's going on while praying that the rockets will miss where we were. I have spent nights in bomb shelters with and without gas masks, and remember too often feeling grateful for the timing when the places I or my family left were blown up by suicide bombers. There was a sense of danger and risk in Israel that I always thought was a necessary price of being there. But I loved the place and its people, and I vowed to live my life there, almost like a marriage, for better and for worse. I also met Avi, my husband, there. Avi is a 7th generation native Israeli whose ancestors grew up in the old city of Jerusalem and Hebron. When, after more than 20 years of living in Israel, he wanted to live here, I thought my dream of living in or living for Israel was over. But when we returned to Canada, I encountered many places where Arabs and Jews live, learn, and work together, including my son's neighborhood school, where he studied together with a Palestinian boy. It occurred to me that we needn't be enemies, given the right conditions. And maybe Canada knows something about these conditions that we could share. This encounter felt almost like another miracle. It left me with two questions. What is Canada's secret about how we get along? And how could we as a Canadian community contribute to peace in the Middle East from here? Within days of asking these questions, Shahar's school principal, Shahar's my son, my 12-year-old son, was on board to prepare a gift for children in Israel and the region using the Inukshuk symbol, which is similar to the Bedouin red Jew, or trail marker. And I can show you a picture. This is a picture of an Inukshuk. Images and stories of Inuit heritage of communal sharing were combined with the well-defined curriculum of Canadian values. With these in mind, children were asked to convey their stories about how we get along. Every single child in Shahar School prepared the gift of his or her story in an Inukshuk frame. So this is the frame. Each stone of the frame tells a different part of the child's story. Where I am from, values from my community of character, an I am statement, how we get along, what do we do when there's a conflict, and my wish for the world. When I showed the Inukshuk album to my colleagues in the Canadian Public Service, we were so proud to recognize that the same community values that children are learning here in elementary school serve as the foundation of values and ethics that every Canadian public servant must learn, be tested on, and commit to. When we went to Israel last April, we shared the album with educators and children from northern towns bordering on Lebanon all the way through Israel to children in Gaza, through Reida, Dr. Abuelaish's niece, who was recuperating in an Israeli hospital from severe injuries from the war. In addition to an Inukshuk sculpture in the album, Reida brought back a stack of empty Inukshuk pages and all kinds of markers and colors to Gaza to share with her friends. And they too drew their stories in Canadian Inukshuks. We're hoping that the next album printing will include the stories of children from all sides, because if you read the pages, the children seem to know what we have forgotten. We need to take care of our world and each other. We need to be kind, listen, say I'm sorry, forgive, and go on playing together while respecting our differences. How did we forget these ideas that are so simple to our children? And this is where my story connects to yours, or at least it could. Most of the people I met, both Arabs and Jews, said they shared my dream for peace in the region. And everyone, both Arab and Jew, knew, based on words they read and actions they observed, that it was the other side that didn't want peace. And if only they wanted peace, we would have peace in the region, because we are not the obstacle. I don't know how to work out the conflicts, the borders, the definition of two states or one state, or the reparations and amendments that are needed to end the conflict. But I do know that only if we speak out about our commitment to the common goal of achieving a peaceful coexistence and commit to listening to and acknowledging each other's story, we can succeed. Where's Case? I need you. As Theodore Herzl put it so well, can you help me? Im tirtu ein zoagada. If you will it, it is no dream.
Translated into Arabic, بالعزيمة يصبح الحلم حقيقة.
It is with this in mind that I'd like to proudly invite Dr. Iseldine Abuelaish to dialogue with us with the moderation of the Honorable Ed Broadbent. Dr. Abuelaish is a Gazan physician who is a passionate and eloquent proponent of peace between Palestinians and Israelis. He has devoted his life to medicine and the search for reconciliation in the Middle East. Through treating Palestinian and Israeli patients and working in Israeli hospitals, Dr. Abuelaish is a committed advocate of forgiveness and healing as engines in the peace journey. Even in the face of the horrific tragedy of losing 3 of his daughters and a niece when Israeli tank shells shattered his house in the Jabala camp, Dr. Abuelaish has continued to advocate for peace and harmonious coexistence between Palestinians and Israelis. Educated at Harvard, Dr. Abuelaish is currently Associate Professor at the Dalai Lama School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. Dr. Abuelaish is the winner of the prestigious Common Ground Award. He is a finalist for the Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought, and he is a nominee for the 2010 Nobel Peace Prize. An international foundation inspired by Dr. Iseldine Abuelaish's vision and commitment to peace and reconciliation is being created with headquarters in Toronto and Gaza. The foundation will develop programs promoting education, health, and leadership for the women and girls throughout Gaza and the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Iseldine Abuelaish.